Are you ready? In this video, we're going to talk about emergency preparedness. I mean, after all, what is the point of an emergency fund? To support you in the event of an emergency. In this video, I'm going to share with you a few of the lessons that we can learn from what's going on in Texas and Oklahoma right now. I'm going to share with you what lessons my brother who lives in Texas has learned being there in person and experiencing it. And then I'm going to share with you a list of things that you can do to be better prepared for any emergencies that come to you in your area. So make sure you watch to the end. You're not going to want to miss it. My name is Paris Clough, and this is Financial Self-Reliance. On this channel, we talk about the mindsets and the skill sets of the wealthy, and we teach you how to manage, protect, and grow your assets. If that sounds like the kind of community you'd like to be a part of, go ahead and click like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the content that I produce. So right now, Texas and Oklahoma are in a state of emergency. They've had extreme weather and some real emergency situations. When you have no electricity, no water, no food, and no access to your electronic money like credit cards, debit cards, or bank accounts, then nothing else matters but your survival. Are you ready to be self-reliant and survive in a time of emergency? No amount of stocks or bonds or mutual funds or ETFs, no huge bank accounts, no large amounts of available credit are going to mean anything if you don't have food to eat, water to drink, and something to keep you warm or cool depending on where you live in the event of an emergency. So what does this have to do with being financially self-reliant? Just everything. Being self-reliant means that you don't have to rely on others to survive and or thrive. So natural disasters and emergencies are a huge part of being self-reliant. And it takes money to buy the gear and obtain the skills necessary in order to survive when things like this happen. So what can we learn from what's going on in Texas and Oklahoma? Right now, there are millions of people with no power. My brother lives in Austin, Texas, and he sent me this picture. This is an amazing sight to see. All of the suburbs around Austin are completely black, but right in the center there you can see that there's still some power, probably because of generators, or probably because those are areas where a hospital or other emergency buildings are that have the types of equipment to keep the lights on even when the grid goes down. This picture is a line of people that are waiting to get food at the grocery store. What's happened in this situation is that people can't drive to the grocery store because the roads are so slick. So they have to walk to the grocery store. So when they get to the grocery store, they realize that the grocery store has no power either. When the grocery store has no power, you can't swipe your credit card or your debit card to pay for your groceries. So you have to have cash on hand. So part of your emergency fund, part of having money in preparation for emergencies, should be that you have some cash on hand, at least enough to pay for food. I would even recommend having enough cash to buy food for a month if you needed it. Now, some of these folks, if they had food stored up, I know that canned food isn't the best tasting stuff, but I promise it's better than nothing. And if it's gonna keep you alive, it's worth eating. Another really important thing to have is drinking water. You can't have enough drinking water. And right now, a lot of people are having their pipes bursting. In fact, many places and suburbs are having their water shut off. If you have no water, you can't survive. And so having water storage is critical. I would recommend having several 24 packs of water bottles in a readily accessible place. Personally, I keep a 24 pack of water bottles in every one of my cars because even if I'm out and about and something happens, I want to make sure that I have water bottles in my car. But I definitely have a bunch of water in my house that will allow me to have drinking water available should my water get shut off or should I have the pipes in my home get frozen over. Now, where I live in California, I'm not going to have a lot of the experiences that the Texans are having right now. But I promise you, we can learn a lot from the lessons that they're going through. Another thing that's critical is having space heaters or having portable heaters. Not the kind you can plug in, because with no power, you're not going to be able to plug in a heater and be warm. So having a propane heater or some kind of other heater is really important. Another thing that's important with no electricity is you got to have a way to cook your food, or at least prepare your food. If you have food that needs to be cooked, you got to have some portable way to be able to cook that food. And so personally, I have a bunch of camping stoves that are run off propane, so I could bring those in my house, cook if I needed to, or at least cook off the back porch and have at least something to be able to cook my food so that I can eat. Another thing that's important is to make sure that people around you are prepared as well. In this video right here, you can see that somebody didn't prepare properly and their pipes burst above this particular apartment, and now this apartment is suffering the consequences from that. How crazy is it to wake up or all of a sudden you've got a waterfall flowing through the vent of your house because the apartment above you didn't prepare properly and their pipes broke. So like I shared with you earlier, my brother lives in Austin, Texas. In fact, all these videos videos and pictures are from him. I'd like to share with you a few of the things that he's learned and a few of the experiences that he's been able to go through. Hopefully we can all learn from his experience and be better prepared and more self-reliant for when an emergency hits in our area or when an emergency hits again in his area. One of the things that we have to always be aware of is that a crisis or an emergency is always right around the corner. I'm not saying that we have to live our lives wondering when the sky is going to fall or wondering when we're going to get run over by a car, but I definitely believe that we have to be ready and be prepared as possible for anything that life can throw at us. And so here are some of the lessons that my brother has learned in going through what he's going through in Texas right now. First of all, my brother and I are preppers. So we actually have food storage, we have water storage, we have a lot of equipment, and we've also obtained the skills necessary to be able to survive in a lot of these situations. There's no way to be prepared for everything, but you can be prepared for most things. And thankfully, my brother was prepared in advance so that this particular emergency in this situation didn't hit him as hard as it did his neighbors. So I'm going to share with you a few pictures that my brother sent to me from his property. As you can see, the snow is really thick and those icicles are really long. One of the things that he learned is that he was prepared with canned food. He was prepared with enough water. And one of the things that was really neat is that he actually had a surplus and he was able to help some of his neighbors. He has some coworkers that were able to come over and get help from him. He was able to give some water. He was able to give food. He was able to help them and their children with some of the things that they needed to be able to survive and to make it through this emergency situation. One of the things he shared with me the other day was that he hasn't needed to leave his house in over a week because he's had plenty of food, plenty of water, and he's had plenty of warmth, even though he's had several days where the power's been out for several hours at a time. Another thing that my brother shared with me is that when you have a whole community that has an emergency all at once, that takes a very large toll on the emergency response that the city has available. For example, the firemen and the police department and the emergency medical people and the hospitals, they're completely overloaded because so many people all at once are having an emergency. If you have busted pipes and 20 or 30 other people in your neighborhood have busted pipes, how long do you think it'll take before a plumber can get to you and to your house? There's not that many plumbers. If you have some kind of an emergency, how long will it take for emergency medical personnel to get to you? It's important that you have enough resources available to you that you can survive and thrive until the emergency personnel can get to you. If you're the only person that has an emergency, that's different because all of the resources can be used to help you. But if your whole community, your whole city, and frankly, your whole state is having the same emergency, trust me, it's going to be a while before anybody gets there to help you. So you're going to have to be able to help yourself and then band together with other people in your community and your neighborhood and help everyone, and together you'll be able to survive and thrive. When large-scale emergencies happen, this is not just an individual issue. This becomes a neighborhood and a community issue, and if you're prepared, you can help others be prepared. Not only will you be able to survive, but you'll be able to help others survive and thrive. One of the things that's critical about being able to help others is to make sure that you always have enough for yourself. You're not going to do anybody any good if you have nothing left. So make sure that you have enough food for yourself, and then with your surplus, bless the lives of others. And you need money to be able to buy food storage. You need money to be able to do the right thing. So you need to be able to budget properly so that you can afford having a food storage, so you can have water storage, so that you can have the gear necessary. You can have heaters and portable stoves and propane heaters and all those other things that you need. It takes time and effort to really plan those things out. So if you want help budgeting and making sure that you have enough money to be able to prepare for these types of things, there's a link in the description below to my 30-day free challenge. I highly recommend you do that. It will help you increase your positive cash flow so that you have more money to be able to help set aside for emergencies and preparation and opportunities and all kinds of other things that you need in your life. My brother shared with me that this particular storm is a 50-year storm. It seems like somewhere in the world we're having a 50-year storm every single year. You may not live in Texas or Oklahoma or in that area, but I promise you, wherever you do live, you're going to have an emergency at some point in the future. Make sure that you prepare now. The time to fix your roof is not while it's raining. It's while the sun is still shining. When the time for decisions has come, the time for preparation has passed. Make sure that you're prepared ahead of time so that when the emergency hits, you're ready to go. So what can you do? First thing I would suggest is get a 72-hour kit. Have some kind of food and clothing and a few pieces of equipment to be able to grab and go in case of an emergency that you need to leave your house. 72-hour kits are also great if you need to camp in your house, because at least you have the gear in a ready-to-go bag and you're prepared and ready to go in the case of an emergency. I've provided a link in the description below to a list of what you should put in a 72-hour kit. So if you need to know what to put in a 72-hour kit or what should go in a 72-hour kit, click the link in the description below and sign up to get that PDF so that you're ready to go. The next thing I would do is get some food storage. Every time you go to the store, every time you buy groceries, buy a few extra cans of soup, buy a few extra cans of beans, buy a little bit extra rice, buy a little bit extra each time you go to the store, and before you know it, you're gonna have a month or 2 or 3 of food so that you can survive in the event of an emergency. The next thing I would do is build up some cash reserves. Have some money on hand. You don't want to have to be one of those guys standing in the line at the grocery store only to have the grocery store tell you cash only, and you just have a debit card or a credit card and you have to walk home in the snow because you didn't have cash on hand. Another thing you'll want to do is do a little bit of research and finding equipment. It's important to have the right equipment. My brother has learned in this experience that he needs to have and wants to have a generator. That's the one thing that he realized he didn't have. So he's going to go out and buy a generator now, or he's going to save up to buy a generator so that he can have that the next time a storm happens. It's important to be ready. It's important to be prepared. Are you ready? Are you prepared? Being financially self-reliant means that you don't have to rely on anyone else to survive or thrive. I hope you got a lot out of this video. I really am grateful that you took the time to watch it. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.